Well, good afternoon and welcome back to another live iThemes training webinar. My name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the host here at iThemes Training, and we have with us once again our friend Rebecca Gill, our resident expert on all things Google and SEO. And Rebecca is here today to talk about the 12 days of Google Analytics. Rebecca, how are things going today?
Things are wonderful. We are in the Christmas season or whatever holiday you celebrate, and it's the end of the year, so things are marvelous.
Awesome. Well, we've enjoyed Rebecca's monthly webinars this year. Lots of great information that's gone out. I know a lot of you guys have been participating in those, and hopefully you've definitely enjoyed the content and grown from it and your understanding of how to do SEO the right way. Just a couple of notes as we get started today. If you missed last week our website audit workshop with Rebecca, you can get access to that. It's over in the sidebar of the chat room area. Currently, the price is $97, but we've got an issue on the cart there, so it's not adding to the cart with the correct price. But you will be able to purchase that now after the fact if you'd like and view those replays. We'll get that pricing thing fixed hopefully here this hour. Also, if you are joining us for the first time, welcome to iThemes Training. We got a lot of, I think, new faces registered for this webinar, which is awesome. And if this is your first webinar with us, we just want to let you know that we don't use the questions feature and go to webinar. Instead, we use our own live chat room. It's over there at ithemes.com/chat. ithemes.com/chat. That's the place to ask your questions. And it's always helpful to me, especially in these webinars where we have a lot of attendees. If you will please type the word question and I'll uppercase before your question, then what I'll do is I'll pull those off to the side and save them, and we'll give those to Rebecca at the end of today's webinar. Also, if you're wanting the slides from today's webinar, we'll have those available for you after Rebecca completes the presentation. So with all that being said, Rebecca, what are we going to talk about today? Let's dive right in.
So today we're going to talk about 12 elements of Google Analytics that I want to make sure the listeners are aware of. And I've picked these because first and foremost, when I work with clients, like my own clients, even seasoned marketers don't know a lot about what Google Analytics offers because they're busy and there's a lot of stuff in there. And so I really wanted to take that kind of information that I know that people tend to miss, and I want to cover those today. So whether you are a developer who works with clients or you are an end user, like a website owner, and you're on today's webinar, I'm hitting the things that I think a lot of people miss and don't realize are there, but are very helpful. And some of these I live and die by. So these are how I picked things today to cover. So just in case you're wondering how my 12 little guys came to fruition, this is how they came about. Because I have 12 different areas I want to talk about in Google Analytics, and I only have about 45-50 minutes to get through them, I'm only going to be looking at limited things inside Google Analytics because there's only so much time. But I do have quite a few slides so that you can download those and use those for your own follow-up or that with your client, or if you're an end user, for your own website. So that's it. So let's get started and just kind of dive in. Okay, so let's just hit the basics of Google Analytics, because even though I have been using Google Analytics for, I don't know, like 10, 15 years, it didn't really dawn on me that this is the way that analytics actually reports. And I can't believe that it just didn't hit home until recently. So the tracking that Google Analytics does is page loads. So every time a page loads, the tracking code will collect and send updated information on that user's activity. Now, that seems like no big deal, but if you think about it, it's a page URL, load or change. That is how Google Analytics is tracking and reporting data. So when things fall out of that, Google Analytics doesn't see it, and it provides some limitations. So as we go through the items today, I will talk to you about a way of getting around that, but keep that in mind. As Google Analytics is tracking information, so when the visitor comes to the site, the website, and as the visitor moves from one URL to another, that is what triggers information in Google Analytics. And again, I'm betting a lot of you just didn't know that because it didn't dawn on me that that's really what's happening, but that is. So let's talk about how it is broken up. So Google Analytics groups this activity into a period of time, and they call that a session. A session basically just begins when the user comes onto any page within the website or the blog, and that page or URL has Google Analytics tracking code. If the URL hits a PDF that is part of your website, but there's no code on that PDF, Google Analytics isn't going to see it, right? It cannot see that traffic. It cannot see that activity. It cannot report it into your dashboards. So a session is going to end after 30 minutes of activity. So say I've gone to a blog. I started reading the blog. My son comes home. He's had a bad day. He pulls me out of my office. I walk off with him, yet I leave my screen sitting there. After 30 minutes of me trying to calm my son down, that whole activity just goes away, as in it ends, right? Automatically, because Google knows I'm no longer there. If the user returns to the page after the session ends, so my son gets calmed down, I give him some combos, he's doing well, I come back, it's now 45 minutes later. If I start to do activity again, this is a new session. So it's going to record as a new visit. Okay, so inside of Google Analytics, you have accounts. You can have multiple accounts, and then within accounts, there's properties, and then there's views. Most of us have accounts in views, and views being just a way to define your data, right? It's a way to like segment information. Now that doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you go into a Google account or Google Analytics account and there's a large list, it can be pretty overwhelming, especially when you start to click on the individual accounts and you see all of these properties underneath it and then all of these different views. And it's just a way of Google trying to give you options. And you'll see in a few slides on why we might need to have additional views for a regular traditional website. Okay, so here's the pros about Google Analytics. It's stinking free, right? It's got a lot of good information that is just completely free to use. It is easy to install. You take one glob of code and you drop it in. For us who use Genesis like me, they've already got a spot inside the settings that you just plop it in. You don't need a plugin or a coder or anything else. Another great use of it is it integrates with other Google products, right? Like Search Console and AdWords and some other ones that we'll hit on. Google Analytics will track acquisitions and behaviors and conversions, which is really important information for marketers. It also allows us to customize the data that we collect and to view it in certain ways. It allows us to create custom reports. We can track things like e-commerce purchases through our online stores or goals and conversions that may have happened. Another plus of it, although it can be frustrating, is that it is constantly being developed. So new stuff magically arrives and you don't even know it's there till you stumble upon it. My frustration with it is with that new stuff arriving, they take stuff away too. And I go to find something and I'll be in the middle of a call with a client. We'll be sharing screens and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, where did that go? Because Google Analytics has changed and there's really no notification to users that happens. So for me, that's a negative, but it's positive that they are trying to constantly evolve the application to the current user activity and the way search happens. And they're always trying to provide us value. Another pro, which you may not be aware of, is Google provides free training. There's a lot of good information out there, both in videos and text walkthroughs that Google has available for this analytics product. And I will provide a link up to that at the end of this presentation. So, why I'm hitting things I want you to be aware of, and I'm going to talk about, what they are and where you might use them. I want you to remember that this isn't the end. There's a lot of free training that you can grab from Google and really, dig in deep to certain areas of the application. What are the cons? What makes my Santa sad? My Santa gets sad because it only tracks URL movements. That's the default, right? So if a user does any other activity besides moving from one URL to another, the default analytics will miss it. Another con is it's overwhelming. Someone said that in the chat box or the chat room, that it is just tremendously overwhelming. And when I go to show it to my clients and we start talking about the data and I say, have you looked at this? They're like, no, I find it overwhelming. Google Analytics is completely overwhelming to me. So they don't go in there, and and that's a problem. My con that I said earlier, it's constantly changing. Things that I'm used to seeing that have been there for years, all of a sudden will disappear and they're gone. Things I've ran into before is there's limitations on what you can do for free. You can have a limited number of accounts. You have a limited number of dashboards. You can have a limited number of goals. I hit that limited number of accounts very early on in my agency life at Web Savvy, and I had to have workarounds to get around it. So where clients were giving me access to their accounts, all of a sudden Google was like, you're done, Rebecca. You've had enough. You get no more. That was a problem, and it was really challenging for me. So, that to me is a big con. The other thing is while there are custom reporting options, they are pretty darn limited. So there's only so much you can do with them. Okay, so I got 12 things. They're numbered, each thing. First one I want to talk about is filters. What are filters and why would you use them? So filters are used by the view, so that lower level of the count. Not the account, not the properties, but the actual views. So, and they're used to be able to segment data into smaller groups. You can use it to create a specific subset of data. You can exclude data like that crazy stinking spam that used to arrive all the time. Thankfully, it's much better. You can use it for like search and replace types of information. Common usage for this, right? You're going to exclude internal traffic or your consultant's traffic. So if I'm going to my website all the time, I want to block my IP address, or excuse me, not block my IP address. That would be funny. I want to filter out my traffic so it's not showing as traffic and elevating those numbers that are not really real. They're not human visitors besides me coming to the website or my mom or my dog. If you want to be able to include only specific host names, you can set the site up to do that as well. And then if say you've got a development site that's got your Google Analytics code on it, you can actually exclude that out through a filter too, to make sure that that's not clogging up the information. So let's look at, I do have some filters I set up that I just want to show you real quick. And some of these are really old. And I know I'm going to have to make this bigger, so give me 1 second, I will. Okay, so these filters have been around a long time because this is when the spam was really bad. So there's my IP filter. I'm just filtering out my IP, and then this is all that spam that came in. And what I would do is when I would create them, I would actually use the verbiage I would see, in that referral traffic. And so I know it was already set up. And these are really, pretty easy to set up when you're doing these basic elements. Unlike some of the things that really confused me in Analytics to start with, this one I could get pretty quick. All you do is add your filter, you give it a name, I set custom, I'm excluding things, you check IP address from the dropdown, and then I throw in my IP address and I'm good to go, right? Which is great. Some of the other ones, like these silly referral traffics, it's just basically, removing out that data so you're not seeing it in reports. And the nice thing is you can always verify information that you set up, like goals and filters and things, to make sure that you did set it up properly. So those are just a few instances of where you might want to use filters and how they could apply to your website. Not everyone's going to use them, but I wanted to start there because it can distort your data and it can be problematic for people. Okay, the next one is real-time data, right? People probably know it's there, but you don't most likely use it. This can be a rabbit hole for me because I really love data. It's from my old ERP days, and I can get sucked into this and realize like 15 minutes have passed and I'm just sitting watching stuff happen on the screen. That's a problem for me. So now I've tried to get into the process of I'm not going to sit and watch it for 15 minutes. I'm only going to look at it if I have something specific I'm trying to track. And so what would those be? What are the best ways to use it? So let's say you just release some new content and you want to see how people are using that content. And I love it because you can see them move into the content, stay there, and move back out and potentially go somewhere else. And that to me is pretty powerful, especially if you have, if you released a brand new blog post, it has got links in there to other content or potentially something that you're selling and you're trying to get people over to a product. You can literally see that traffic coming in and out of that blog post and going over to the buy page or to your service page or someplace else. And having that real-time data does something for your mind. It just, for me, it helps me process it differently than I would something else. So that's one reason why I love it. It's great for tracking the success of social media. So for example, a lot of you are part of my private Facebook group. Say I share something in there and I want to see if y'all have any interest in it. I share it and I can sit and wait to see what happens. Or like on Twitter, that goes really fast. You can share something on Twitter and see if anybody comes. While you can get that static data, again, it's much more powerful when you see it in a real-time interaction. Send out an email campaign. Maybe your email campaign is huge and it goes to 15,000 people and you mail it during the day. Sit back and look at your real-time traffic and you can see what actually happens with that data as soon as it goes out. Does anybody jump on it right away, or do they take, a while to ever read that email and actually take action? You can use it for promotions, and then, like I said, just that watch visitor movement as it happens. If you've never done that before, I would encourage you to do it the next time you do something big, because again, it's going to show you data in a different way for your mind to process it, and it can be pretty powerful. We do have limited data that we can see in real-time data. It's basically active users, pages being viewed, the locations of the visitor source. So did they come from Facebook or analytics, things like that. And then the conversions and events that they might take as a result of that visit. So while the data is limited, again, I do think it's super powerful. And when you do something major or something that is timely and you really want to see that immediate activity, it's a great tool. Okay, so the next one is goals. I've been using goals for a really long time. I have always lived and died by goals, and it's funny because when someone were to ask me, well, how do you know X is making an impact on your business? And I can tell them I have data. The reason I have data is I've got Google Goals, and when they're configured properly, they can provide you wonderful information. Now, if you are a website owner in here and you're like, I don't know what goals are, you are not alone, because most people don't know what goals are and they're not using them. Once you see what they are and you realize what you can use them for, you'll realize they are very powerful and they will give you just oodles of information. If you're a developer on here or you're a freelancer, make sure that your clients understand what goals are and how to use them. And if you're relaunching a site for them and the URL structure changes, you best make sure that you go check their goals, because otherwise you're going to break this information for them and it's going to be very frustrating. So, okay, so what are goals? Goals are basically a way for you to define an event or a situation that you specifically want to track. It could be a destination. Every time someone gets to a destination page that's really important to you, it records a goal. It could be a duration of time. Every time a visitor looks at 20 pages on the site, you want to record a goal. That's like something significant. It could be 10, it could be 5, it could be 100. How long did they stay on your site? How many pages per session? Or excuse me, I just screwed that up. The duration is the time. Pages per session would be the 10 or 20 pages per visit, right? That's something. Or it could be an event, right? There's some type of an event that they are triggering. That event could be the fact that they just requested a checklist for download. It could be that they subscribe to a podcast. It could be that they've submitted an inquiry form. It could be that they've made a purchase on the site. Lots of different applications. You can set up monetary value for goals. So if you've connected your like WooCommerce application to Google Analytics, you will automatically be seeing that information come through, and it will be showing you the dollar value. But say that you're collecting leads through contact forms, and you know that a lead that comes into the website is really, equates to like $10, right? That's the activity that it would equate to. You can actually set up that goal amount, and then you can start to get reporting for that. I personally don't do that because it will drive me crazy, since that's not tangible money and I'm OCD. But there's a lot of people that really like that type of information and they want to have monetary values assigned to their goals. So when a visitor completes an actual goal, Google Analytics calls it conversions, right? That is a conversion. The nice thing was what happens is when that conversion happens, the goal allows you to view funnels. So you can actually see and track failures or completed goals. You can see where people were before they got to that goal, and then what happened to them after, where they fell off. So it is pretty darn powerful. Real world usage. contact forms inquiries, newsletter, podcast subscriptions, a download of an ebook or a white paper, an account creation, a blog comment, a review that was left, a purchase, or an extended amount of time in the website. Those are all things that can be tracked, right? So I brought up, let's see, I think I have so like these were goals that I have you know, in my main website, right? And some of these are just really old, like an affiliate sign up. I'm no longer doing that through the website, so I would just turn it off. Beginner's Guide to the SEO ebook. I still have that in a few places on the site. Contact forms, I still have that. You notice that I have the Developer Pro Purchase. That's turned off because that's not been available for a while. So those are just some of the goals that I have. And then I also, let's see, I thought I had this up for us. So let me go into an actual goal. Because what you want to do is when you have your goals, you want to make sure that you set up the data properly, and this is going to vary on the type of goal it is, right? Like you can see that Google Analytics already has a lot of preset ones in there that you can just come in and grab and start to complete that information. Now, for the ones that I have, they're destinations. So I say it's a contact form, so when that report is getting sent out to me in the data, I can see what it actually is, and it makes sense to me. And then I create the funnel, which is as easy as saying, here's the destination I want to get to, which is my thank you page. Here's the screen that they have to go through before they get there, which is the contact page. So if somebody comes here and completes the step and they get a thank you, which is here, a goal is recorded in analytics. Very simple to set up for basic inquiry forms, which is why I love them. And then once we have them, we can get a host of information. Okay, so a few things to know about the goals. Goals are limited to 20 per reporting view. So when so if you are like some of my clients who are, you know, larger mid-market or larger small or mid-market companies, they're going to have more than 20 goals, right? So when that happens, they have to create new views of the website, which is that lower level, to say this view is associated with just goals. And so we start tracking goals over in that view because we've surpassed the main property view with 20. It is a pain in the butt, but is the only way to get around it that I'm aware of. The goals will only apply to the data you collect after the goal has been created. So for example, in my SEO Bits website, I set up all of those downloads pretty quickly and just route you to a PDF, and I don't have a thank you page, and I never set up a Google goal. Right? I'm tracking how many forms get taken to account inside WordPress because I see it through Gravity Forms, which is what I initially wanted, but I never took the time to do any of the formal goals. So now if I were to go set up the goals, all of the information and all of the hundreds and hundreds of downloads that have happened over the last 6 months are not going to be reported. That's a negative, and that falls on me as the website owner because I knew about them and I failed to do them in my rushing just to get things live. Goals can't be deleted once you set them up. You can just turn them off, which is what I just did with that affiliate activity. And then with the goals, you have to have URL movement for the most part to be able to do those destinations like I just showed you, which is the easiest way to set up goals. And it's very easy to do with like Gravity Forms, which I use. All right, so the next guy is annotations. I love annotations because they help you figure out what the heck's going on with your website 6 months from now, right? So think of these as like a virtual Post-it note. They're just a simple way to date stamp something, and it can be really anything. It's just a matter of what you want to record that may or may not alter the traffic and the data that you are seeing. These are recorded at the view level, right? That lowest level again. And then once they're added, regardless of what report you're on, when you add in that annotation, you'll be able to see them from other reports within that view. And a final note on this page is that they can be private or shared. Now, I know you're probably saying, I don't know what the heck she's talking about. So let's kind of just go over again and look at some annotations that I have. I thought I had the SEO Bits website up, and I may not. Yes, okay, so let's see if I go into, let me go to my overview. So if I go into my overview, and let's say I want to look at some traffic, and I click on this guy right here, now he starts to see these annotations. And it can be, it's just a text that you do. It's based on a date and a text. And I'm just saying, oh, by the way, this week, because Carrie Dills told me I had to do it in an email and she gave me no choice, I added my podcast to Spotify. On December 12th, I actually created a goal for subscriptions because I totally forgot to do it before then. Say I wanted to go record something else, right? So I'm going to say create annotation. I could come back here and say, okay, well, it was the 3rd. Well, we'll go back farther. Well, it's not going to let me because I don't have that date. October 4th, this is just a test annotation. And that's all I have to do. I can set that it's shared or it's private, and then I save it and it will start showing up, right? And it's right over here. Hold on, let me get that date farther back so you can actually see it. I think if things are, okay, so there's an annotation right there. Click on it, you can see it with that little guy right there. And this might seem very simplistic to you, right? Like, big deal, big woo, why would we need this? There's lots of reasons why you need this, and they become really important as you're going through and looking at traffic. So let's look at some real world examples on why you would need those, right? You relaunch or redesign the website. You want to make sure that you note that. Again, whether you're an end user and this is your website we're talking about, or you're a developer, and if you have access to the client's Google Analytics, go in there and make them an annotation so they know, even if they don't know it's there yet, they know at some point in the future that that's when that happened. Do that for them. Another reason, hosting outage. Say your hosting went down for 2 days, and we've actually had people who have done that. Like, they've come to us and said, oh, why is our website down? Well, your website's down because you didn't renew your DNS. Oh, and by the way, it went down 7 days ago because you're not on maintenance with us, so there's no one's looking out to make sure the website's live. You know, these are the kind of things that you'd want to know, and you'd want to say hosting went down for an annotation, and then hosting came back up if you're, you know, that long of time frame, so that you really can track what had happened. And so here's a great example. I'm looking at website traffic for November of 2017, and I'm comparing it to November of 2016. I see November 17 is way low. Why are we so much lower this year than last year? If I had annotations in there, I can come back and go, oh, that's right, we had that hosting outage because Joe forgot to renew you know, the DNS. That's going to totally distort our traffic numbers. These are the reasons why you do it. Let's say you had a bad SEO consultant or an employee. You would want to know when they were hired and when they were fired, so you could see variances in traffic related to that activity. A specific marketing campaign, industry or competitor activity, or if you got hit with a penalty from a search engine, all good reasons to have those annotations. Okay, dimensions I love. It's funny when you start to look at these because people just don't realize they're there. I love dimensions because I use them with conversions. So every Google Analytics report contains 2 types of data: dimensions and metrics. A dimension is like the source, the device, the geography. Where did the traffic come from? What kind of device? Was it desktop or mobile? What state was it in, or what country, etc. A metric is a number which is used to measure one of the characteristics of a dimension. So a dimension can have one or more characteristics like pages per session or bounce rate. And then when you start to combine this data together, you can start to see things like how many bounces do we have on the homepage on desktop versus mobile, because you're starting to get more complex with this information. You can take that one step further with the dimensions to say, okay, I know the bounce rate from desktop to mobile. Now I want to see it by source. You know, how am I failing on that source? Because if you look, a lot of times you're going to have much different bounce rates between organic SEO versus a specific social media channel versus email. You can also set up custom dimensions, which can be used for advanced segments. I don't do that, right? I have my custom dashboards that I have, and that's what I use, but I use combinations of these metrics and dimensions because it really becomes powerful. So here's a good example of my real world data. I like to view these dimensions by conversions for source. I want to see those website conversions I showed you earlier. Where are they coming from? How do I know where to spend my time? You know, really what makes a difference? And this helps with leads and sales, and really, again, knowing, do you want to guest blog post somewhere? Do you want to spend time on Instagram? Or do you want to maybe buy pay per click? It's powerful. So like this little guy right down here is a real report that is showing goals completed based on the individual sources. So this number 3 here, I had no part in that. That was a website that found my how-to guide for search engine optimization and linked over to it, but it's driven 84 conversions. Well, for me, that's kind of powerful because I can see that really makes an impact. I might think that there's not a whole lot of Facebook activity going on, but when I see Facebook is bringing in 17 conversions, I know that's got more activity than, say, Twitter or LinkedIn. And that starts to give me good data. Again, it helps me know where I want to spend my time. Once you know where you want to spend your time, and you know what's working, you can really help accelerate the success rates that you're having with SEO and all of your other marketing campaigns. Okay, so the next guy is events, and not like events like the event calendar. Events are user interactions that can be tracked without the need of a page load. Remember, I started the webinar saying that Google Analytics tracks movement from one URL to another. I did that purposely because I wanted you to understand that, because I wanted you, when we got to events, to see that, oh, you can do more than just that simple URL movement, right? You can start to get more fancy and start tracking things like events. Events can start looking at video plays, stops or pauses, downloads of files that don't have thank you pages, ad clicks. You're going to have 3 core components when you set up an event. You're going to have a category, an action, and a label. Examples would be categories: videos. The action that you want to record is play, and you want to label it so you know what they're playing, and I've labeled it schema webinar replay. And once you start to set that activity up and those events up, now as people are moving through your website and taking action outside of just moving pages, you're getting a whole lot of good information available to you that you wouldn't have otherwise. You can also connect these events to your website using Google Tag Manager to make it really easy for you. And we're going to talk about Google Tag Manager in just a second. What this really does for you is it really just starts to take the generic, regular Google Analytics data of URL movement, and it amplifies it. And if you've got a lot going on your website, or if you're a developer for your clients and they've got lots of videos and things like that, and downloads and call to actions and ad components, these are all good things for you to help implement for them so that they can get a lot more rich reporting from Google Analytics. Okay, so the next guy is Google Tag Manager, and I'm going to be honest with you, I am not an expert on this. I loaded the code up on our website, and I went through to explore some of the code, but this is a newer option within Google Analytics, and I just have not had time to dive into it. I've been much more interested in schema and structured data and things like that. So what is a tag? A tag is basically, it's a snippet of code that you apply to your website, and it's going to start collecting additional information, again, that Google Analytics can't really detect for you. Tags can come from a variety of sources. They can be analytics, like we just talked about. It can be AdWords or third-party software packages, and there's a number of them already pre-configured and available for usage. So Tag Manager, the cool part about it is it allows you to quickly update tags and the code snippets on your website without ever having to go to the website. You're going to take the main tag snippet code that Google gives you, you put that into your website, and then you're done with your website for the most part. You're going to create the tags within the Google Tag Manager, and manage them there. And you don't have to keep going back to a coder if you're a website owner and have them update the website, which is pretty cool because it starts to give you a lot of autonomy and a lot of control over your data and not making you reliant on developers. Freelancers, however, I'm going to tell you who are listening in, and developers, this isn't easy to do. So if this isn't something that you've explored yet and you really like to have ongoing relationships with your clients, dig into this, figure out how to do this and how to help implement it for your clients, because it can be really powerful information for them. So you set the tag up, and then when the tag gets triggered or fired, that is when data starts to get collected. And that tag fire is just basically an action or event being taken place, like clicks and views and downloads and scrolling and submissions and purchases. Again, it's just taking, like information we have in analytics and taking it and amplifying it so you get a lot more data. There was a recent blog post, I think it was even like this week, that was published, and I grabbed this screenshot out of it. I do have a link to the blog post at the end of the presentation for you, because it is worthy of exploring the whole content of it. But so where do the top 20 tags come from? How are they getting used? And this was the study that they did. 60% roughly advertising, 25% analytics, and then 10% social media. So it kind of gives you an idea of what kind of data people are collecting, although there's a lot of them that you can grab and use. They can become really overwhelming to people, so there are templates available. What kind of templates and examples could you use to trigger that fire activity? It's a click to call. So you've got the phone number on your website and you want to track every time someone clicks it and tries to call you. It clicks on links going outside of your website. So maybe you have a resource directory on your website and you're linking over to industry publications or your association, and you want to be able to show these people how much traffic you're actually sending to them. Google Tag Manager, having one of those triggers set up would help you do that. It'd help you get that metrics and be able to report that out to them. Social media activity, PDF downloads, form submissions. When someone clicks on the email address within, say, like your contact page, there's no way for Google Analytics to track that, right? So instead of filling out a form, if you have that mail to : your email address, and someone clicks on that and that pops up their local email software, drops that in for them so they can send you an email. Again, Google Analytics can't see that information because it's not a URL that changed, but Google Tag Manager can, and it will record that for you so you can tell what's going on. Video plays, ad activity, and then error tracking, all different types of usage that people would use for Google Tag Manager. Okay, so Search Console. If you do not have Search Console integrated into analytics, you want to do that. This has not always been an option, but it is an option today. It is in your benefit to do it, because what happens is when you connect those two together, you get back some of that not provided data. So, and that's one of my frustrations, is that those keywords have gone away in analytics. And I used to be able to get to historical keyword data, because I mean, the Web Savvy site's been around for like 9 years. I want that historical data, and now I only think I can find it anymore because that historical keyword information is kind of gone. We have to have Google Analytics. Google Search Console. The downside of it is it's only available for 30 days. Search Console is only storing that information for 30 days, so it's only going to push it over to the reports for that long of time frame. But it still has great value. It allows you to get some additional information. There is a section in analytics for Search Console once you integrate it, and it looks at landing pages, countries with drill downs, devices, and then those search queries that we're missing and we're really not getting anywhere else in analytics anymore. Okay, so reports offer some keyword-based data for impressions and clicks and click-through rates, average position, sessions, bounce rates. You can read them. But so let's think about this. So if I know people are coming in for the phrase pink puppies, I always use that. Now I can start to see the difference in activity from pink puppies until brown horses, right? Which one is more powerful for me? I can first of all see what I'm ranking on. It will bring that ranking information into Google Analytics for you. Now keep in mind, it is giving you an aggregate, right? So if brown horses I've used it on multiple URLs, and 5 URLs are ranking for that, it's going to give me the average position. I can drill down to get more details on that for the specific URLs, but keep in mind, if all of a sudden you're like, whoa, it's telling me I'm ranked 20, it may not be 20. It might be the fact that for one URL, you're ranked number 1, and another one, you're ranked, 40, and it's averaging those together and it's giving you 20. So, but that's good information for you both to know and be able to have in reports for yourself. So once I get that integrated, I can start to see how many times is that showing up in search engines? How many times do people actually click on it? And then, what is that click-through rate? The caveat, though, is those impressions is Google. It's not going to show you Bing and other things. It's showing you Google's search engine because this data is coming from Google Search Console. But again, good information for you. You'll start to see that by keyword, different keywords are going to have different bounce rates. Different URLs are going to have different bounce rates. And then you can start to see those keywords relating to revenue through a store or leads through your conversions and your goals that you set up. Super powerful information, but if you don't have Google Search Console and analytics integrated, it's not going to give it to you. And it's really easy to set these up. It doesn't take more than 2 seconds. If you have both accounts for both and they're both verified, it's 2 seconds literally to say, connect this guy to this guy. Okay, so a couple of caveats here that you need to be aware of. The data doesn't match between the two, right? You're not going to have 100% the same data in Google Analytics that you would in Search Console. So keep that in mind. It's always going to be a little bit off. And some of the reasons is some people disable JavaScript in their browsers. That throws off the data. You could be missing analytics code. So remember that PDF that I referenced? Google Search Console could see that PDF because it's coming through the search engine results page. They could be reporting on that PDF, but it might not show up in analytics because there's no tracking code there. So you're going to be off with that data. A frustrating one for me is Google Search Console limits you to like 999 entries. So it'll only show you like 900 keywords, where if I've got 10,000 in analytics, I would see all 10,000 analytics. That's frustrating. And then the fact that they filter those bots that come through differently. So that's going to throw things off a little bit as well. And again, a few things just to remember. One keyword can show up for many pages, so you can start to see some averages. And then one page can also have many keywords. So you got to really make sure that when you see something of importance or concern, you'll drill down to make sure you're truly seeing what you think that you're seeing, because sometimes because of this integration, it can be really goofy. Okay, so I love custom dashboards. If I ever have a client who is having me do any type of SEO projects with them, or be on maintenance with us, or have me do SEO ongoing work for them, I create custom dashboards. It's because I like to see data in a specific way, and I have specific data that's important to me. I don't want to go through 20 Google Analytics reports and screens to get 20 data points, right? I want them all quickly accessible for me, and custom dashboards allow you to do this. So it gives me quick access to data. It lets me see my most important information, so I'm not getting sidetracked by stuff that doesn't matter to me, that becomes clutter. I get to manipulate the data so I can see it the way I want, whether it be a pie chart or a table or something like that. You can create dashboards from scratch, or you can grab and import 19,000 available templates. I bet y'all didn't realize there was that many out there available. Then once you bring in those templates that are already created for you, you can modify them to however you want to fit your needs. So those are all wonderful things to look at. And let's look just real quick at the solution guide that I was talking about. So this is where you get the templates. I can actually share my templates with you by just giving you a link to mine, or you can come here and browse through those 19,000. You can see top dashboards, top custom reports, segments. I can come in here and I can start to browse through them. And then when I go to browse, I can say, oh, well, these are great, but I'm a little overwhelmed. Just let me see those reports associated with referrals. And then I can start filtering for just referrals, and it will start, limiting down that information for me. And again, it's really easy to just import, click the import button, you select the view you want it to import to, and it's going to bring it into your account for you, and then it's available. It's always there for you, whether you want to edit, change, etc. If you're not using those, I would highly encourage you to do them because it is, again, really, really powerful. Just a few limitations to be aware of. You can only have 20 private dashboards. I typically have anywhere from 5 to 8. You can only have 50 shared dashboards, and then this one drives me crazy. It's only 12 widgets per dashboard. I want a few more than that. So, you know, it is what it is. And so maybe I have like a dashboard for SEO versus one for social versus one for referrals versus, you know, like kind of an overview, which is really how I do look at data and set it up. Those template categories that you can do, I won't go through them all, but these are what's available. Lots of really good information, from campaigns and conversions to e-commerce to social media. You know, it's again, how you want to view your data, and you get to use the data and view the data that best meets your personality and the way your brain processes information. Okay, so once you have those custom dashboards set up, what I like to do is set up reports. You can schedule reports to come to you. They can come to you via Excel or CVS or a PDF, and you can have them come daily, weekly, monthly, and they just automatically get sent to you. So like when I do monthly reports for clients, I have these pre-set up, and they email to me on the 1st of every month, and they will give me data for the client from last month. I save them locally, and then I will collect all of the different reports that I have for clients and, you know, hand them over to them. Or I also have clients who just want the reports to go directly to them. So I set up custom dashboards for them, and they get emailed out to their team of who they designated every month. So lots of really useful information. And this is like a, you know, the custom dashboards, the dimensions, and the scheduled reports are 3 areas in analytics that are really easy to set up and use, you know, once you know that they're there. But a lot of people don't even know it, but once they know that they're there, they really use this information. Okay, so Google Data Studio is like Google Tag Manager. It's a little bit outside of analytics, but it does connect to analytics, and it is a newer option. Here's some pluses about it. It creates unlimited Data Studio reports that are completely custom to what you want. You can combine data in from a number of sources. So I can bring information from analytics, Search Console, AdWords, YouTube's, you know, lots of different places. And they can be really, really unique, and they've got templates for quicker deployment. Let me show you some real quick. Let's show you one. So this is one that I grabbed, a template I grabbed for YouTube. My YouTube brings in my podcast, and then I will upload like videos like today into the training area to in a segment to show what training I've done for iThemes. Well, now I can start to see pretty visual information on this in this little sample report that is available in the Data Studio. That is definitely a plus. The negative to it is you can break these really fast. You know, when I was playing with it and I started to move stuff around, there were big gaps and things like that, and it started to go astray. And I just didn't have time to really dig into it, so I had to set it aside. So like analytics, you can't really break much stuff, right? I mean, you can dig in and create reports and things like that, but you're not making major issues. The Data Studio seemed a little bit different, where once I wanted to start playing with reports, things got wonky pretty quickly. But if you have time and you want to create some really detailed, pretty reports for either your organization or for your clients, it's a really good tool. The benefits, lots prettier than Google Search Console or Google Analytics. Google's pushing updates to this product monthly. I actually looked at the change log and I was like, wow, there's a lot of activity coming every month through this. The limitations are you need to define your data sources before you can even use it, which took me a second to figure out what was going on. It isn't overly intuitive. It took me, like I said, a while, and my brain adapts to software pretty quickly. It didn't adapt to this quickly. I mean, it took me some thinking to even just figure out what the heck was going on and the basics of it. And then, like I said, I was breaking reports faster than I realized I was even touching things. Okay, so here's my last one. If you don't have Google Analytics on your phone and you wanted to, or on your iPad, there are tools out there to do it. I have been using an app for so long, and I was going to share it with you, but it's no longer available in the iTunes store. But there's another one. Google Analytics actually produces one. The one that I have on my phone, I had to buy years ago, and I paid money for because Google Analytics didn't have anything. Well, now they have something. They have information that's available right inside iTunes. You grab it, you download it, you connect your account to it. You just sign in basically to Google Analytics. You say what accounts you want to look at if you have access to multiple accounts, and now you've got great information on the go. You can see what's going on your website at any time, no matter whether you're out to dinner with your family or you're sitting on the beach, and you don't have to have your laptop with you. So that's really cool, especially if something's going on where all of a sudden you're seeing a spike in purchases or conversions, and you might want to figure out where the heck things are coming from. Really good to have that information available. The nice things about it is you can see that real-time data right on your phone or your iPad. You can compare date ranges. You can build your own reports. It's got a lot of pre-configured data points for you, like the most things that people want to see. And then you can save custom reports so that they're just right there available for you. Really good information. And I would encourage you, this is another thing. If you've never, put any of this on in your iPad or your phone and you think that this would be helpful, take the time to do it. It's free. I think you might be surprised at how often you might look at it. Okay, so there's my 12 guys that I wanted to go through. I had said that there's information at the back of the presentation that I wanted you to have. And so there's 2 pages of this, of links for the data studio, the dashboards. I gave you the link to the gallery. Some dimensions information. I wanted you to see information on the dimensions and how to use them, since we're not going to have time to go through that today. Events is another one. Events, remember, that's where people might click on the video and you wanted to record that information. Filters, like filtering out that spam or filtering out my IP address. Additional information on the real-time data and what you could do with it that you might not know you can do. Here's some good information on the integration of analytics and Search Console and things you might not know that we didn't have time to cover today. Scheduling reports, and then Tag Manager. And this last link right here is the article that just went live this week. So if you're brand new to Tag Manager and you think you might want to go through it or might want to investigate it, I would encourage you to read this article first and learn a little bit more about it. And then if it's interested, go to this next URL, because it provides a ton of information and you can actually walk through like these little mini courses to give really into the depths of it. I will warn you, if you're a website owner, this link right here is going to put you to sleep, and you probably want to find a developer to help you with that. So I had to go fast today because I said it was going to be 12 days of Christmas with analytics, and 12 is a lot to get through in 45, 50 minutes. So Nathan, that's what I have, and we've got some time left that we can hit some questions.
Well, fantastic. As always, wonderful information, and we've got a stack of questions for you to get through here.
Okay.
There's a bunch. Before we get to that, the link for Rebecca's slides, we just dropped that in the chat room at ithemes.com/chat. So if you want that download, it'll be there, ithemes.com/chat, and you'll see my post there with Rebecca's slide link there on SlideShare. Also want to let you guys know that Rebecca does have a Facebook group that's open. You can join it. Just drop the link into the chat room for that as well. And some of you, we talked about this a little bit in the pre-show, but over in the right sidebar beside the chat room, you'll notice that the replays for last week's website audit workshop are now available for purchase. So if you missed that live, then you can still get access to the replays and all that information. It's $97, and that link is correct and working now, so you can purchase that if you missed out on that webinar last week. Okay. One other issue. Some of you were asking about the January webinar that we had planned with Rebecca, and the news on that is it has been canceled for now. We are working and currently planning webinars for 2018, and we will keep you up to date on what's going on with that. So I'm going to give you another link there in the chat room. There is the MailChimp sign-up list for our SEO list. And if you're not on that already, sign up on that list, and we'll keep you posted on what's happening with Rebecca's webinars in 2018. Okay, now, Girl Who Can't Type is asking, she says, if Genesis and Yoast if you're using both Genesis and Yoast, where's the best place to drop the tracking codes? Should you use the theme? Should you use the plugin? Does it make a difference? What do you think?
I don't think it makes a difference. I plot mine into the Genesis parent theme settings in the footer, and that's what I do with all clients too. But I don't think it's a huge difference to my knowledge. I'm not aware of any issues, one versus the other.
Gotcha. Just don't use both. Otherwise, you get the code on there twice. Okay, Cheesehead is asking, what is the maximum number of accounts you can have, or maybe you could give a best practice on how to set up accounts, knowing if there's limits and so forth.
So, yeah, okay. So I think the maximum used to be 20, and I don't remember what I have in the slides. Whatever I have in the slides is what it currently is now, because I made sure I went and pulled the most recent data. What we had to do is when we surpassed the 20, right? When clients were no longer my clients, I would get rid of them off my account so that they weren't hogging that space. And then the next thing that we did was we created an email, like a corporate email for reporting. And then we would have clients assign us access to that email address, right? That way it wasn't like filling up the 20 really quickly, because you can fill up that 20 really, really fast. And one of the issues that I've run into is sometimes you get a client who adds you in and you don't have the ability to remove yourself out based on how they've set up your property. So that would be the best practice. And, if your clients are having you help get analytics set up, please set it up with them as the owner. Don't set up as you as the owner, because you can't move that, right? It's not easy to move from one. You can't move analytics from one account to another. So make sure that your client is the owner and they just grant you access.
That's great information and a good best practice for those of us who work with clients. Okay, Joanne is asking, what if my IP address changes constantly? Is there a way or some sort of trick I can use to keep my IP filtered?
Whew, that would be one that I would ask for my team, and I bet you I've done that, because my IP address when we went into my filter looked really funky, and I bet you it's trying to accommodate that, because I know my IP address can change as well. Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that, because that is just outside my expertise level.
So that's a good question to drop in that Facebook group. If you have not joined Rebecca's Facebook group, go ahead and do that. The link is still there in the chat room, visible. Maybe drop that in, and that can be a good ongoing discussion there.
Yeah, we have a lot of technical people in that group who are very willing to share their knowledge. They're wonderful folks.
Awesome. Marge is asking, if a goal is turned off, does it still count toward the 20 limit?
I believe so, yes, but I don't know for sure.
All right. This is a question from, I think this is my favorite chat handle of the day. It's from My Own Worst Enemy. This person says, it used to be that you couldn't set an annotation for today. Have they changed that?
So you can set an annotation for today. When you go into analytics, the default is it shows you dates up until yesterday. So you just have to go up to the guy at the top and change your end date until today, and then you can absolutely set an annotation in for today.
Awesome. Amy asks, do we only put annotations in the audience view? Is that where we add them?
You can, anywhere that you can get to them, you add them, and they're available throughout the entire view when you want them. Right, so it doesn't limit you on when you see that traffic activity, that's where you can add it no matter what screen that you're on, and then it's shared across those screens.
Got it. Sue asks, can events be triggered when you all of a sudden are getting a lot of traffic to say, hey, you've got a lot of traffic on this URL?
I do not know the answer to that, but that is a great question.
Sounds like another Facebook group question. So,
it does. And I was thinking that as I was going through the Google Tag Manager, I really need to get somebody who's well versed on that to come on my podcast so we can do an interview with it, because that's just, that's great information. And I'm sure that it's going to continue to grow in usage.
Absolutely. Here's another one from Marge. She says she doesn't have Search Console or Google Analytics set up. Does it matter which one gets set up first?
Nope, just get them both set up, Marge, and you're going to be thrilled with the information that you have available to you. And make sure that you integrate them.
All right. From Joanne, she says she also uses Monster Insights for a quick view of what's happening on her site, but the numbers never match Google Analytics. Which one should she pay attention to?
Google Analytics.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned earlier, Google doesn't even agree with Google sometimes between Analytics and Search Console, right?
Yeah, and when you start to look down to the minutia of why they don't match up, it's just crazy. But I mean, it's their tools and they have limitations just like any software does because it's binary.
Crazy. All right, Suzanne asks, can you integrate if Search Console and Analytics are set up in two separate accounts? She says she set up a unique Google Analytics account for each client, but she puts all her clients into a single Search Console.
If you have access to both when you're signed in, right, you should be able to link them. If not, you're just going to have to assign like access to the mismatch, right? So whatever route you want to go, whether it's the Search Console or the Analytics side, you have to grant access to the logged in account, and then you can re-log in and connect them. Again, so you have to both be logged in at the same time. You know what I mean? You have to have through that one login, you have to be accessing both of them to be able to link them together.
Gotcha. Okay, here's one from Don. Is there a way to use my work analytics and my personal Gmail without having to log out and log back in, going back and forth between the two? Oh, that's annoying.
I'm surprised you can't switch accounts. What if you grant access to yourself? Right? Because like when I have access to client accounts in Google Plus or YouTube, I can flip through, like I can switch profiles and stuff. I don't know if you can in your scenario, but I know I can in that.
Yeah, that whole account switching back and forth is kind of confusing for a lot of folks. It is not the easiest thing to do.
And it's not if you forget that you were, like I've gone into YouTube to upload like videos from today.
Yes.
And I was last on a client's account and I've almost uploaded it to their account.
Exactly. Okay, another one from Marge. Earlier in this webinar, you mentioned that the reporting in Google Analytics was one of its cons. Does the Data Studio make up for that limited reporting? What do you think?
So Data Studio is pretty powerful. It's just challenging to figure out. You know, and you can tell with the amount of updates that Google's doing with it that they, you know, definitely are going to be putting more and more emphasis on it. So if reporting is important to you and you want some more complex reporting, it would definitely be worth digging into and learning how to use it. And I know from being at conferences that there's a lot of developers that absolutely love it, that's what they use. They don't go into analytics anymore. They just go into Studio, the Google Studio.
All right, last question, again from my own worst enemy. What is the difference between events and tags? I know a tag manager has some set up, but do events have to be set up too? How does that work?
So, so an event is an action, and then a tag can be associated, like when you're doing Google Tag Manager, that can actually be associated with a number of third parties, right? Like, you know, different software. So they are different, but they can interact.
Gotcha. Well, I think we've gotten all the questions. Really good information here. Solid hour of a great overview of Google Analytics. Thanks, Rebecca, again for a wonderful webinar here. Thank all of you guys for being with us. Rebecca, as we close here, any last words to share with folks?
I would just like to say thanks so much for joining me this year on all the webinars that we've done. I've thoroughly enjoyed interacting with all of you, providing the training and having y'all like in my Facebook group and hearing from you on Twitter. It's been awesome. I hope the year has been successful for all of you, and I look forward to more interactions in 2018.
Absolutely. And folks, if again, there are several new folks on our webinar today, so we're glad that you joined us. If you'd like more free iThemes training, you can go to training.ithemes.com. Not too many upcoming webinars right now. We're working on that schedule actually this afternoon I'll be working on the schedule. But we have webinars like this all year long, a couple of weeks usually. So come back and join us on another free iThemes training webinar. We'd love to have you. So thanks again, everybody, for investing the last hour with us. I know it was a time well spent. All those links and resources are there in the chat room. And hope to see you again sometime soon here on iThemes Training. Hope you have a great rest of the week.